Hi, this is Laura, and I like to craft stuff. And today we're going to do a trunk show, bed turning that's not really going to be on the bed. We're going to look at all my finished quilts that have been finally quilted and bound, all the ones that I still have because I have given away a few. And yeah, I'm really excited about this. So if you're interested in sticking around, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let's get into it. So this first quilt is the square within a square. And I realized I should probably tell everybody that most of these quilts have videos associated with them on my channel. I have a nice quilting playlist, so if you wanted to check those out. We decided to go with a flower pattern for the actual quilting part of it. Most of these quilts were quilted by Mardi, and I usually let her decide what she wants to put as the quilting pattern because I drop off a whole batch. And so thank you, Mardi. Thank you so much. I really liked what she chose for this one. I think it matched really well. I use sheets for the backings of all my quilts. So this was just a plain white sheet, and I think it really pops and goes well. And then the binding was a plaid binding. This one is Mosaic number 2. And I had a lot of fun working on this. This is one of the smaller quilts. The backing I used was a dinosaur sheet. And so Mardi did a kind of jungly print leaf pattern as the quilting pattern. And then I had some fun leftover blue teal kind of fabric that I used as the binding. There's been a big learning curve on binding, so my bindings do not look the best. And I apologize, but I think it looks super cute. This is a fun, bright quilt. And I like the jungle pattern a lot. The big old leaves. This quilt was called the Formal Garden. This is one of the more newer ones. I do wish that I had done a larger border because this would have been a nice one to have as like a bed quilt. And it looks like we went with a flower pattern for the quilting. Again, Mardi chose based off of the design of the quilt, and I think she matches really well. I use the same fabric as the dinosaur quilt, the Mosaic number 2 for the binding. And then I did, this was just a peach background, or peach backing that was a sheet. I like using sheets because I try to save and not waste so much fabric. This one is called the Calico Puzzle. I loved working on this one with all the purples. Leftover purple fabric in the same shade as the border, and so that was what I used for the binding as well. And then the background, the backing, I did a purple sheet. And you can see the design of the quilting is this kind of retro-y flower pattern, which I think is super cute. You can see it better on the back of the quilt, I think, which I used as a sheet. So yeah, that was Calico Puzzle is what this one was called. This one is Mosaic number 1. I did have to go back and fix some of the blocks came apart a little bit. My seam allowances weren't good back then when I was doing these kinds of puzzles or quilts. But I did fix it, and now it's quilted, and I really love how this one turned out. I believe we went with a dark blue sheet as the background, or the backing. And then the quilting was done as this wavy pattern, which I think is super cool. I didn't have all of the same color, I believe, for the binding for this one, so I matched a little of dark blue and then the ochre color to bring out from the quilt. I had scraps of both colors, and so the binding for this one is a little bit mismatched, but I kind of like it. This quilt is E to Z, and I made it for a friend, and so it's finally quilted and finished. I can give that to them. It is, this one was a fun one, and it's massive. And the quilting was done with little spirals to match the space theme, which I think is cool. Because this quilt was so large, I had to piece together on top of, or like beyond, a king size sheet. And so it was a king size sheet plus some. I added a little bit of this like plaid goldy fabric to the back of the sheet, which I thought was went well. I think it'll be cute. And then I had this sparkly black fabric I used as the binding. This one is called the Colorado quilt block. I personally still love these two color fabrics together. I think they're really fun. The quilting wound up being flowers, again, matching to what is on the quilt. I used a purple sheet as the backing. It's not exactly the same kind of purple. And then the binding was the purple polka dot fabric from the other purple quilt that we already got to see. I really do like this binding pattern. I think this is the same one as the formal garden. This quilt is called the double quartet. This was my recent video. It also just got quilted, and this is such a fun, I should pull this one out and put it on my bed. This is such a fun, bright quilt. And then I think it's just spirals for the quilting pattern. There's a lot going on, so I appreciate that the quilting pattern was a little bit calmer, I guess. And then the binding was the same blue fabric that was in the blocks. And there's the spirally fun pattern. Next up, we have the log cabin. I made two of these. Both of these have been quilted. I don't know that they have the same quilting pattern. They don't have the same binding or backing. This one, I went with just a plain white background. And then it had a little leafy quilting pattern. It's not a plain white background. It's a sheet that has a white and golden pattern. And then the binding was a fabric that was in my stash that I thought would look well with this. I didn't really particularly like the fabric to use it for anything else. And then for the other version, which I don't have footage of, I used a golden ochre color for the binding. This quilt is the Anvil. And from far away, it's such a fun pattern. It looks like it's another, you can kind of see the quilting on the front of it. But it looks like it's another swirly pattern. I don't know how I would describe that pattern, actually. Semi-floral? The background is a sheet that's more of a golden color, and then you can see the binding. This quilt is the Robbing Peter to Pay Paul. And I used the same fabric to bind this quilt as the last one that we were just looking at. I really enjoy the way that this quilt turned out. You can kind of see the quilting on the front of it, but honestly, I can't really make out both fabrics were very patterned. So, as you can see, it's Can't really tell on the front, but on the back, you can see it's a flower pattern. And I really like having the purple sheet with this one to bring out the purples on the front of it. This one was the Hartford quilt block, and I do really enjoy this quilt quite a lot. It's so fall themed. I used the top sheet from a sheet pack I had actually gotten new for myself for my bed because I thought that it would match. The top sheet has a whole bunch of mushrooms on it, and then obviously some of the fabrics that are in this quilt also have mushrooms on it, so I thought it would go well, even though the like background color is this blue. And then I used this ochre fabric for binding, and I thought that matched well. And then the pattern that was quilted was this more circular pattern, which you can see better on the front of the quilt than on the back of the quilt. But yeah, I really like this quilt quite a lot. I did have it on my bed for a little bit. This is the Scraps and Stripes quilt, and every time I look at this quilt, I really do just love the colors. It's so much fun. I used this green plant matter fabric to bind, going and continuing on with the greens of the fabric. And then for the backing, I used a striped sheet to match the stripes, but kind of balance it out. I thought it went well together. And then you can see the swirls pattern as the quilting. This one here was the Ship, and I don't know if I'm crazy about this quilt, honestly. Out of all of my quilts, I don't know that this one's my favorite. I do like the ships, though. The quilting I really, really appreciate, though, because it made it look like it was water. It's this kind of zigzaggy, swirly pattern, and I think it went really well with the quilt. I did a polka dotted pink fabric as the binding, and then a polka dotted pink fabric as the backing, which was at one point a sheet topper. It's so, you get so much fabric for so little money. So that's why I do it. And then this one, I think was the first quilt Mardi quilted for me. And my binding is absolutely awful for this. We used a sheet, this like mossy green teal sheet as the backing, and then we did these like peace signs and hearts, groovy pattern as the quilting pattern, which I think goes really well with this quilt. I don't know that I would say this one's a favorite, but I do appreciate it. I do appreciate it. And I loved the quilting peace sign fabric, or the peace signs and the flowers. I thought that was a really good one. This one is called the Churn Dash, and I need to pull this one out for spring. This is such a springtime little like picnic quilt. I don't know that I'd actually use it for a picnic, but you know. I don't believe that I bound this actually. I think Mardi did the binding for this, and I really liked the checkered green that she used, green gingham, which was also the fabric she used for the back of the quilt, which is super cute and I think goes really well with the whole vibe of that quilt. Then next up here we have the Balkan puzzle, and I was originally going to give this one to a friend, but I don't think they liked it very much, so I'll keep it for me. I wound up finding this sunflower fabric to use as the backing, and then I think there's a lot. I can't really tell what the quilting pattern is from the front. Oh, it looks like maybe flowers, which would make sense since there's flowers in the pattern. I did use an ochre color fabric for the binding, which I use that for a lot of the bindings. And then this is the back. I think it's a sweet quilt. I Still can't tell what the pattern is. Sorry. This one is West Wind. And yeah, this one is so vibrant. Again, it would have been nice to make this one larger and have a border, but I decided not to go with that. Looks like it's just a simple swirly pattern for the quilting, and then I bound with the polka dot maroon fabric. That's pretty regular. Several quilts were bound that way. And then the backing we did felt from the felt sale at Joann's. And so I don't know that there was any stuffing that was put in there, just the felt and the quilt. This one is Goose in the Pond, and it's one of my favorites. There's Abigail looking at it. It's massive as well. And so the sheet I provided wasn't big enough, and so Mardi did just use normal fabrics. But the fabric she chose, I think, goes really well with the rest of the quilt. It's an orange swirly pattern. And then the quilting was also done in this circular pattern, which I think is really cute. Ties it all together. And then I use that same fabric to bind it. I really, this will be the next quilt I have on my bed, I think, for spring. It's so bright and vibrant. I really do like that one so much. And then this, I think, is probably my second favorite quilt. This one's Annie's Choice. And this was just a simple two-tone quilt that I absolutely adore so much. It's just so much fun. I did a plain white sheet as the backing, and then you can kind of see it's almost like a paisley effect swirly pattern, which is really interesting. And then it's bound with the same fabric as the quilt before this one, which you can see there. I think her thread went from orange to pink as well, which is pretty cool. Pretty nifty. Just showing you that final binding there. Next up, we have Pieced Tulip, which you can't really see at all with the fabrics that I chose, and that's okay. It's my Halloween flower. I have been using this as a lap quilt for just sitting in the living room, and so it has gotten a lot of love. I should probably change it out to a different one of the smaller quilts. I bound it with the maroon polka dot fabric, and then I also used felt or fleece as the backing. Not felt. Fleece for this one and the other one. If I said felt for the other one, it was fleece. I apologize. But it has a kind of Halloween-y fleece backing. And it looks like the quilting pattern was this kind of like circular dot one, which is pretty cool. I think it matches pretty well. This one, I had to look up the name. In the book, I believe this one is Fancy Stripes. And I hand quilted this quilt. It took me a while to do it, several months to hand quilt this. So this one was not quilted by Mardi. I also had this one on my bed for quite a while. And it still makes me happy. I really like this quilt. I like the colors so much. I used a floral kind of funky pattern for the backing. And you can see my hand stitches for my hand quilting. I do really enjoy hand quilting as well. It just takes forever. And then the binding was the same fabric as the backing. And you can tell it's one of my early bindings. It's not great. It's not great. And then there's the backing, which I did not bury my knots. I'm sorry, everybody. But that's quilt for me. And then this one is the Contrary Wife quilt. And I don't believe that I bound this one either. I think Mardi did that. She found a kind of black and white circular pattern that matched the vibes of the front of the quilt, and then did a circular pattern almost like waves to kind of match the border and the backing, which is super fun. I appreciate that. And there we go. And then, yeah, she was the one to bind that one. So this is the final quilt. There were 24 quilts I was able to show you. Obviously, I have more quilt tops that still need to be bound and backed, but it gets difficult to find backings, and I've just been a little lazy. So we'll get there. We'll get them all worked up. Thank you so much for joining me. I do try to post. I'm not posting as regularly, but I have more ideas. So if you want to like and subscribe, I would greatly appreciate that. And yeah, I am hoping to do more than just quilting. So we will see. We will see what's going on. With that, I will leave you with a little outtake of Abigail enjoying climbing the quilting wall. Okay, bye.